everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Infra with Rahul. So today, in this Linux Day 1 video, we are going to cover the below concepts. What is Linux? What is an operating system? Evolution of Linux step by step. Difference between Windows versus Linux. Big organizations or apps using Linux. Usage percentage. Why learn Linux now? Popular Linux distributions. Kernel versus operating system, and who should learn Linux. So let's jump into the topics. So what is Linux? Linux is an open source operating system created by Linus Torvalds in 1991. Today, it has a massive user base and it is used in world's 500 most powerful supercomputers. Now, you might be getting a question, what is open source? Let's jump into the Red Hat official page and let's see what exactly open source means. Open source software is released through a specific kind of license that makes its source code legally available to the end user. There are many such licenses, but typically software is considered open source if it is available in source code form without additional cost, meaning user can view the code that compromises the software and make any kind of changes to it they want. Okay, and secondly, the source code can be repurposed into the other new softwares, meaning anyone can take the source code and distribute their own program from it. So I guess now you are pretty clear with what exactly the open source is. Open source is nothing but it's a source code available legally to you and you can customize it according to your own needs. Okay, this is what actually the open source means. Okay, next moving into the what is operating system. An operating system is a software that directly manages a system's hardware and resource, like the CPU, memory, and storage. The OS sits between application and hardware. So let me show you. If you see this exactly OS which sits between application and the hardware like CPU, memory, and device. Okay, and makes the connection between all your software and the physical resource that do work. Humans can interact with the computers in many ways. Most people's primary interactions with their hardware happens through an OS, which helps them to access computer core functions. So this is what actual the operating system means. So next moving evolutions of Linux step by step. So if we see in 1969, birth of Unix took place. So it was developed at Bell Labs, Murray Hill, New Jersey, USA. So actually this Unix was being designed for multi-users and multitasking OS. Okay, and also it is also known as foundation for modern OS like Linux. So next moving in 1991, Linux kernel was created. So if you see, Linus Torvalds wrote the first Linux kernel. Started as a hobby project to learn and improve Unix like OS. So if you see in 1992, Linux goes open source, licensed under GNU, General Public License GPL. Anyone can use, modify, and share Linux freely. This is what exactly the open source means. So in 1990, first distribution appears, Debian 1993 and Red Hat in 1995 made Linux usable as a full operating system. So if you see in 2000, Linux for servers and enterprises. So in 2000, Linux gained full popularity in web server, cloud computing, and supercomputers. Enterprises started using RHEL and CentOS operating systems. So if you see in 2010, Linux was everywhere. Android Linux based dominates mobile, and Linux powers cloud, DevOps tools, AI, and IoT devices. Today, Linux is everywhere servers, cloud, mobile, embedded system, and IoT. So, strongly open source community driving continuously evolution. So, this is what exactly the evolution of Linux. This image explains from the hobby project to global. If you see the same what I explained, it's been into this image in 1969, Bell Labs, birth of Unix, 1991, Linux kernel created. So in 1992, Linux goes open source, same whatever I explained, you can see. And also if you see, it was just a hobby project, okay, for Linux to rules. So you can see the line here from a hobby project to the world's most powerful open source operating system. So next moving, so you might be getting a question, now Rahul, what is the difference between Windows versus Linux? So if you see license wise, Windows is paid and closed. So now, like what is closed? So only Microsoft controls the development and changes. It's not like open source Linux, okay? The whole and soul like the ownership is in the hands of Microsoft for a Windows. If you see the Linux, it's free and open source. The source code is publicly available, as I said. Okay. And moving to the security, Linux generally is a more secure. Okay. And for the customization, Linux is highly customizable. because it's an open source. You can change its appearance, software, and even the core system to fit your needs. If you come to the performance wise, Linux runs well on the low end to high end systems. So if you see from the use case perspectives, Windows is especially for desktops and gaming. But if you see for Linux, it is servers, cloud, and DevOps. And also big organizations or apps using Linux. If you see for a global wise, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, Netflix, and Tesla, most of the global organizations are using Linux. And if you see from the India perspective, ISRO, DRDO, NIC, Indian Railways, and most of the IT companies like Infosys, TCS, Wipro, Airtel, Jio are using the Linux. So coming to the usage percentage, if you see from the desktop perspective, Windows is highly used, like more than 70%. Okay, and Mac OS is like a 15%, and Linux 4 to 5. If you come to the server wise, Linux is 90% plus. See how actually the Linux is being used in the servers and cloud. Okay, and coming to the mobile also, Android Linux base is 70%. So now you might be getting a question: why should I learn Linux now when there is a AI and everything is being booming, the latest technologies? So if you see, if you want to gain knowledge in AWS, Azure, GCP, Kubernetes, Docker, it's a mandatory to learn Linux. And if you want to, it's also known as a backbone for cloud, DevOps, and cybersecurity AI. And in current era, it's a highly demanded and better pay for Linux skills. And also, if you want to make your career in SRE, DevOps, backend, cybersecurity roles, Linux is very important. Also, I wanted to show you one more thing. You might be thinking, Rahul, today AI is everything, then why you are making us to learn Linux? Let's jump into this where I was just researching. Like ChatGPT, Grok, Cloud are primarily hosted on servers running Linux. So Linux is a standard operating system for AI infrastructure. Now you got to know why actually I'm uh, focusing on Linux. Actually, most of the infrastructure is dependent on the Linux servers. Okay, and due to its performance, security, and scalability in cloud data centers. So now I guess you got to know who is running behind this all the uh, AI infrastructure. Okay, so next moving popular Linux distributions. So Ubuntu, I guess most of them have been used, and most of the people know this because it's a beginner friendly, widely used for learning, cloud, and servers. Debian, very stable and secure, foundation for many other distros. RHEL, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, enterprise grade Linux used by the large companies. Okay, actually, this is the most highly used in the corporates. Okay, and next moving to the CentOS, Rocky Linux, Alma Linux. These are a free RHEL compatible server Linux. Also, Amazon Linux, optimized Linux for AWS cloud services. Kali Linux, used for ethical hacking and cybersecurity. Urs Linux, minimal, highly customizable for advanced users. Fedora, cutting edge Linux based by Red Hat. OpenSUSE, stable Linux for servers and developers. So Linux Mint, user-friendly desktop Linux like Windows alternative. So these are the currently some of the popular Linux distributions which are used day-to-day life. Okay, so next you might be getting a question, Rahul, what is kernel versus operating system? So kernel is a core program of the system. Okay, so it directly interacts with the hardware, CPU, memory, device, manages process, memory, and device drivers. Okay, and runs in a privileged mode. Example, Linux kernel. So next moving, what's operating system? Operating system is a complete system software. Includes, see here, it's just it's a core programming, but in operating system, if you see, it directly includes kernel plus UI plus system tools plus libraries plus utilities allows users and application to use hardware easily. So example like Ubuntu, Windows, Mac OS. So in one line to say kernel is a engine, operating system is engine plus body plus controls. Okay, if you see this above, this is what exactly the diagram. Let me just scroll it up. Okay, yeah, I guess it's here. This is what exactly the operating system is. Okay, so this is full whole like it more it's sitting in between the hardware as well as your application layer. Okay, so next moving, so who should learn Linux? Students and freshers. if they want to move their career into strong IT foundations. Okay, DevOps and SRS mandatory skills. Cloud engineers, especially for AWS, Azure, GCP, Linux is a core. Software developers, backend API microservices, system or network administrators for server management, cybersecurity professionals for pen testing and forensics, data engineers or AI/ML engineers for servers and clusters, QA and automation engineers for CI/CD test infra. So that's all for today. If you like my content, please do subscribe. In upcoming videos, we'll be focusing on hands-on lab for the Linux. Thank you and have a great day ahead.